This is day 2 of the January 92 7-day retreat in Springwater. We'll read the questions of the first and the beginning second day that I've written down. What is attachment? What does it mean to really go deeply, as you say so often? To look and listen deeply? When there's jealousy and then it begins to dissipate, does it mean that I am deceiving myself? Has anything really dissolved? I've gone through a lengthy period which I will call depression. The word doesn't quite fit, but I will call it that. I found out that nothing satisfies, not relationship, not things. There was no taste, no flavor in anything anymore. Then something changed, and then there was great energy and a yearning to go home, meaning to be at home in the whole universe. What is this yearning? What practice do you recommend here for beginners? Should one focus on something? Should one place the focus in a part of the body? You have talked about being receptive, sensitive, inward, open to what is going on in one's thoughts, emotions. And in doing that, sitting here on a mat during retreat or at home, there seems to be a certain conflict with being active, pursuing goals, doing things, getting someplace. Can those two ways go together? The receptive and the being active. I was in a group discussion, someone else said, can't our activity come out of a quiet spot? A spot which is not so totally self-centered. If it does, I find that it is not in conflict with quietness, receptivity, but that what needs to be done is clear and the energy is there to do it. Also, one is much more in touch with things and people around one in that place of not all self-centeredness. There is not so much to do. There is so much to do when we are receptive to what is going on around us. There's also a note here saying, following up on our discussion on day 1, reactive, passive, isn't it a conditioned program that being into meditation or being quote-unquote spiritual in general goes hand in hand with being quiet, withdrawn, and passive? Does this necessarily have to be that way? Can't one be receptive to one's own actions as well? Not just passively receiving the world which is outside. What I mean is, can't one be quite active, but at the same time see it all, including ourselves, from a non-judgmental place? Becoming aware of a depressive state of not knowing what to do, not caring about doing anything, the hopelessness of it, becoming aware of that, can there be a shift from suffering this state to actively wondering about it as uncharted territory? What is it that is going on right now? I'm really lost. What am I supposed to do? Follow my breath? I've been doing that, but that is so boring. What is boredom? I always feel as I sit down that I'm supposed to do something. Supposed to do something with these endless thoughts. But what am I supposed to do with them? Control them? Suppress them? Let them go on? Or should I just sit down doing nothing? An old Zen saying comes to mind in this connection, which says, sitting quietly, doing nothing, spring comes and the grass grows all by itself. I see that everything I do, think, fantasize about is self-centered. As I look deeper, subtler and subtler levels of self-centeredness reveal themselves. I also see how much I deceive myself as I gloss over things that I don't really want to look at or expose to myself or others. I'm not honest with myself or other people, or am I? It seems that everything is psychological. Can the mind ever be free? I've seen in the past months how deeply I'm caught up in self-image, wanting to be seen in a certain way, look in a certain way. How superficial I am. And then comes the guilt about not being spiritual. A feeling of not being clean goes with these guilt feelings. What is guilt? Can one say, sitting quietly, doing nothing, all manner of things reveal themselves to a human being about him or herself? And how is that seen? How is that revealing taking place? Is it just simply seen without judgment? I think it's the crucial thing, the quality of seeing what reveals itself, whether in quiet sitting or in our active encounters with things and people and workplace and nature. Where shall we start to talk about all this? Maybe we should start with the very basic question several people asked. What practice am I supposed to do here? What am I supposed to do with all these thoughts? Control them, suppress them, let them go. Follow my breath. It's so boring. First of all, can one possibly put aside, maybe at the beginning just verbally, intellectually, the expectation that things will be exciting, great revelations taking place, great insights, great light hit one, great transformations and changes taking place? So that there's nothing to compare this instant of just listening or being. Nothing to compare it with. So we don't know whether it's interesting or not, exciting or not. It's just what it is. We're not comparing it. Or if we are comparing it, that is inviting boredom, judgment, feeling guilty, down on oneself or up on oneself. To understand the whole process of comparison and what it brings in its wake, inevitably. If I compare this moment to something else that I expected, it's not being here anymore, in touch. It's cerebrally engaged and wanting to get things out of this comparison, either feeling good about oneself or hating to feel bad about oneself. Just to understand that is insight into ourselves and the mechanisms that dominate our lives. Not specifically yours or mine, but human lives. Comparison dominates, either creating boosts of energy or deflation of energy. To see that as it happens, not just to understand it now, because now it may just sound intellectual, but one has to catch it as it takes place. As there is a moment of experiencing the breathing, inhalation and exhalation, and then comparison with something one had expected to happen, and not finding this very exciting. What practice am I supposed to do here, is the question. This is a place in which there is no practice that one is supposed to do. Maybe this is unprecedented in one's life. Every place one has been, including the exit from the womb, one was already supposed to breathe. I think it's gentler today, but it used to be slap on the baby's back to start breathing, as though it needed that doctor's slap. And then we're supposed to be good, supposed to be eating. Baby's supposed to be eaten at the right time and proper amounts. An anxious mother feels either gratified if the baby eats, then she says to her friends, he's good or she's good for me, she's eating. Always supposed to do, to eat, to please, to be quiet, to walk early. The other babies are already walking in my neighborhood and this one isn't. Or the other way around. Mine is walking already. So this is in our tissues, in our blood cells. The programs live, as we just recently heard in a tape there by Chopra. Every cell and organ of this body is also alive with the programs. Grieving, wanting, enjoying, fearing. And in this case, supposed to do something. We know that, don't we, how it is how it pervades our whole tissue, our whole organism. The uncertain feeling, am I right now? Am I supposed to do something different? Maybe imagining or projecting somebody there who's watching. The mind can produce everything, including a rocket to the moon and beyond. It can produce its supervisors, its mentors, its critics, its admirers, its audience, all fabricated in fantasy. Of course, in school we're supposed to learn this and that, and in a certain way. I don't have to follow it through our whole life, but it is there up to this moment. And is this a place? Tell us if it isn't. We built this place. It was created to be a place where one is not supposed to do something, but to find out what one is, in fact, doing. Doesn't mean that it can't be projected here too, that one is supposed to do something, or that we are free as people who work here from this conditioned program. We're not. It sits in the cells and heart and liver and lungs and everywhere. But it is exposable. It can be felt and seen and questioned whether it is something useful, necessary, or whether it has something that drives human beings away from the clarity of awareness, what is going on right now, into ever newly conceived goals and techniques and programs. So the next time the question comes up, what am I supposed to do? Am I doing right? Just to notice that as an internal utterance of the program. Not as an absolute maxim that I'm supposed to do something. What we're asking here is, what is going on this instant, whether I'm sitting here quietly or doing the job of washing the dishes, brushing the snow off the porch, cooking the soup, chopping vegetables, or cleaning the toilets. Actively or more passively, we can talk about that later, whether there is any difference, and what it is, if there is. Actively or passively engaged, can there be indeed some beginning blinkings of awareness, glimpses of what is happening, physically, organismically, the sounds of it, the smells and feel of it, the sight of it, the sight of the toilet, the swooshing around of the brush, the suds, the celery stalk or carrot stick. What does a carrot stick look like? In the hand, and knife in the other hand, just chopped it. What is it like? What does a knife look like? What does the hand look like that holds a knife? Is it holding it in a tense grip because it's supposed to cut? If that tension is noticed, this tension which the body manifests at the command, you're supposed to cut these carrots, it can actually relax. That's the amazing thing. Not all these habits that have governed our ways of doing things all our life need to continue, even though they are so automatic. And if they're not seen and come upon with some wakefulness, they do continue. Even though all the cells in the body replace themselves and regenerate, the habits can remain the same and impose themselves upon the tissue, so the brand new tissue becomes like the old one, dominated by habit to be tense, because I'm supposed to do something. I'm supposed to be good. Somebody will watch me and I want to be accepted and loved by that person. So there's so much to discover about ourselves that has been going on so blindly, darkly, unconsciously, and therefore not healthily. Because with a lot of our habits, this one we're talking about right now, I'm supposed to do something, also goes a resistance, an outcry against being pushed all our life to do something, which also may manifest a quiet moment of sitting, the resistance, the outcry, the anger against being dominated, one doesn't quite know by whom, but the mind will readily project the villain or villainess. To begin to get in touch with what is going on and see it without judgment. Is that possible? One has to experiment with it, try, find out, see. So what is our practice? I don't use that word myself. You may have noticed that. Because the word itself has, as we said yesterday, a network of implications. A practice which already implies I'm supposed to do it. And if I do it, I will maybe become perfect. Because there is that saying, practice makes perfect. Which may be true for some skills, although even the most accomplished pianist or singer or artist, from all that I've read autobiographically or talked to, feels perfect. There's always something more to do. So, the word practice, if you wish to use it, you're not offending. Sometimes people say, I guess this word is a taboo here, I shouldn't use it. Please use the words that you want to use. But let us agree on what these words denote, what they are pointing to. And if we agree on that, it doesn't matter so much how we call it. Except that misunderstandings can happen when different people use different words for the same thing or for different things. And we can not understand each other and misunderstand each other. So, what is happening right now? This is my question. Every time I wake up from a fantasy, a dream, some thought train, the waking up is the what is going on. It doesn't have to be verbalized. It's not a practice question. Every time I wake up, I have to say what is going on, what is going on, what is going on. But that's what the mind is asking. And its asking expresses itself in listening. It doesn't necessarily judge what it is that is revealed in waking up. Although if there is not attention at this moment, there may very likely be judgment. I shouldn't have done that. I should have known better. Why do I do this? It's not good. So these are all our conditioned reactions to what we say we have been doing or what we remember having done. But it can dawn on this mind and body that it's not necessary, that it is destructive of this moment of clear awareness to immediately judge. That can be seen in an instant, and so the judgment does not have to persevere, to continue. And then what is revealed is whatever is there. We've talked about it, but it's there. Breathing is there. Someone clearing his or her throat, that's there. The sunshine, the warmth of the body, it's there. Pain in the limb, or some kind of energy circulating, heart beating, sound of somebody talking. It's there. Is it? The sensation of the knees touching the mat or the buttocks touching the chair, hands touching the cloth of the pants, touching each other, the feel of skin. There's no sound of wind right now, or bird. In the springtime, the air is full of bird song, peepers, frogs. There's not even the sound of traffic right now. But if that's there, then that's there. Together with the breath and the beating of the heart. And listening reveals all of that. It may not have been revealed at all as long as there was caught upness in thought, guilty thought, depressive thought. But one of the miracles in human life is this moment of waking up, which happens to all of us at any kind of time, whether one is sitting or walking or working. Suddenly, the mind wakes up to what is there. A brief moment of attention. Really not only to what is there, but also what was there, because the thought that has just been in the mind is reverberating still in the memory. And the emotions that this thought has triggered throughout the body are very palpably there. If it was a fearful thought, then whatever the body produces, which we call fear, which are really responses to take care of a concrete danger. Body does not differentiate between imagined dangers and concrete dangers. A thought of danger incites the body to respond what we call fearfully, but what it really mobilizes chemically and neurologically is the ability to run, to fight, or to freeze, paralyze. I don't want to call it paralyze, to freeze, which we see in little animals. Sometimes you see an interesting caterpillar and you look at it closer or touch it with a stick and practically immediately it looks as though it was dead. Just you can roll it around, it is motionless. And I've seen that in documentary animal movies. Very often a bird will leave that dead caterpillar alone. It's programmed not to eat dead things. And we have that program in us too, in our brain stem, a reptilian brain, to run, fight, or freeze. At one thought. And then we say, I'm afraid, I hate this feeling, I should take something. Take some medicine or tranquilizer, something not to feel so afraid. But if at this moment of attention, of waking up to a fearful thought that has just mobilized this whole body, if at that instant there comes the wondering of what is going on beside all these thoughts that I went through the mind, what is actually happening right now, then all of these physical motions and drives will come into awareness without being judged good or bad. The judgment, if it comes up, can be seen. And if one really wants to be in touch with the real thing without judging it, then the judgment will abate. Because we can't see something that we judge. You can't see a person whom you've already judged as being bad or a villain or a South African, an Iraqi. How can you see a person if you've already judged him or her? How can you see what is going on in this body, painful or discomforting as it may seem? How can you be in touch with it once you've judged it? You can't. It has already taken on a new wrinkle or distortion because the judging thought too evokes physical response. So if it has happened, then to look at the whole thing of what has been triggered through thoughts and reactions in this body, to feel it, to listen to it quietly. After the first three judgments, maybe they will come to quiet. And it does happen with a sustained interest in what is actually going on in a human being, which represents humankind, and we're in such trouble with each other, of throughout the world. We are, aren't we? Recently it becomes more and more difficult to watch news. A certain nausea at all the things we're doing to ourselves and to each other. Unknowingly, we think we know, because it serves them right to be bombed or to be killed, to be lethally injected, because he killed a prison guard or something. But we don't know what we're doing, because we don't understand how this mind projects right and wrong, friends and enemies, evil and good. We don't know. We don't know what we're doing, what we're thinking. And because of that, we get sucked into propaganda of a gross kind. Maybe we're immune to that, but of subtle kinds. Propagandizing each other, influencing each other with our opinions and ideas. So, it is very clear to me that I need to understand what is going on in this body-mind, which represents human body-mind, not Toni's, everyone's. So that maybe someplace here and there on this globe, which we call our earth, there's some insight into what we're doing, how it comes about, and maybe how it can abate and a different action take place, which does not come from programmed habit, which is not a reaction to our past, but comes out of this moment of clarity, of clear seeing, which includes all the things that a body is manifesting, unjudged, but felt without separation. The fear, the anger, the jealousy. So to come back to maybe that we can leave it, what is this practice here? Should I control my thoughts, suppress them, or let them do what they want, or let them go? First of all, find out about thoughts. See at a glance what it is you've been thinking about before you've already repressed it with a gimmick. To see, like one person said, I've noticed that everything I do is self-centered. That's a discovery about ourselves. It's true. Most of the time, maybe all of the time, maybe not all of the time, but most of the time, when the circuit is closed, the energy perception circuit is closed, the center is me. Me and my needs, my fears, my wants, my fate, my life, my future. This is not said judgmentally. Did it sound like that? People say when you come on with a lot of energy, it sounds as though you're condemning something. I may sound that way, still from habit, but I don't mean to condemn anything that is brought to light. On the contrary, how marvelous that we notice what is going on. That we do notice that most of the time our imagination and doings and thoughts and actions come from self-centeredness. Isn't that the first step to realize that? Not to beat around the bush about it, but not say it accusatorily and sort of hook into a religious condemnation or guilt, original sin or so. Then it is a network of associations, which is all within that pot of self-centeredness. Feeling guilty or doing atonement or repentance is all also self-centered. Don't buy it from me. Don't be convinced or influenced, but find out by watching yourself in a way that is not harsh, judgmental, punitive, but a friendly discovery of this human being on a journey into himself or herself. So what should I do with all my thoughts? Why do anything with them? Just to see, isn't that enough at a moment of waking up? To see what the thoughts were all about? And not to enter a new train of thought of what I should be doing, that I shouldn't have thoughts. That too is thinking, isn't it? Based on previous thoughts. What we think now becomes memory, becomes program. Thinking now becomes tomorrow's thought, which acts instantly as a memory. Like a program on the computer. There it is, so quickly. That's why often people dispute that thought was involved. I didn't see any. It's so quick once it's on the program. So can there be gradual or sudden insight into thought? That this thought which was just going has already caused a fear response, an anger, a jealousy. And how if I keep on thinking what he did or she did to me, this anger will continue. Isn't that important to discover? Is that a practice? Or is that, as somebody called it, common sense? To see what we're doing, what thought does to this whole organism, the moods it creates, and how the moods affect the people around us, and the people around us react to our moods. To discover that for ourselves. No one can discover for us. Something can be pointed out and stated, hopefully, clearly or relatively clearly, but the direct seeing, no one can give us. This is something that happens in each individual. I just read in a book about an Indian ancient teaching system of the Vedas. Maybe you've heard about those. That the teachers didn't used to give any instruction. They were just people living there, and someone in the woods, or somebody sought them out. A young person maybe who wanted to find out more about the meaning of life, creation, God, the divinity or the divine. And in this one case, the teacher said, I've got 200 cows here. Take them, live with them, and bring them back when they're 1,000. When they're 1,000 cows. Then you come back. And this young person did that, lived alone in the woods with 200 cows. It doesn't give any details in that story. And he came back when there were 1,000. And the story says that the man now was glowing with understanding and insight, just from observing and watching, not just the cows. I don't know, I'm now playing with this. We don't have the patience or the quiet or the time or the interest, or do we? Maybe we do. I shouldn't say that. But we are impatient, aren't we? We want to see results. Instant coffee and instant insight. And I get ads sometimes, instant enlightenment weekend, instant kensho or something. But our life proceeds, and it needs to be understood from moment to moment. And every moment seems to bring up something new and different. Every relationship is different. There's a lot of similarity, but this moment, I never encountered that before. So, to have this infinite patience to be with each moment, without judging it, condemning it, or wanting something different, something more exciting. So can we sit in the midst of our thoughts and emotions and feelings and get glimpses of just simply what is going on? Patiently, humbly, not wanting more or wanting less or something different, just that. And at the same time opening up. When there's not just this greed, I want more, I want less, then there is an opening up to what is going on, beside the thoughts that revolve in this circuit here, around myself. The sun through the clouds, here in a beautiful place in the country, taking a walk, one can see how much there is to be seen, the sparkling snow. Caps on the branches, how a weed bends over, accented by tufts of snow, and these amazing prints of animals, the sounds of tree trunks grinding against each other, squeaking or groaning it sounds. Cloud covering the sun and a cloud dispersing and the sun revealing. Is that boring? To look, to listen, to feel and touch? It is if we expect more stimulation. And that is something also needs to be said. All of us, some more, some less. But all of us come from overstimulation of the body-mind. So much radio, so much TV, so much music, so much food, so much noise, talking, traffic, work, overload, projects, relationships, children, newspapers and magazines and books. And if we're smoking or taking drugs or alcohol, the body is constantly bombarded. And coming from that, we're not judging it, we're looking at it. Coming from that into a quiet place, the strange feelings that people go through, particularly on the first day or first, second, maybe third day, may be likened to a state of withdrawal from stimulation. The body sort of reaching out for something that it's used to, chemically, electrically, and not getting it. And what thought makes out of it, well, you can watch it. I'm not getting enough, this is nonsense, it's boring. Thought interpreting what the body is just sensing and revealing or manifesting physically. So to listen to that gently, is that possible? To be there with it, not to slap it, and not to make anything of it, just to listen to whatever the feelings and manifestations are, and the thoughts about it. To be with oneself. We don't have time for that. There's nothing programmed into our school time, into our family time, to be quietly with oneself or with each other. Even here, after a while this was dropped, now we just reinstituted it, that on Wednesday evening, it's not required, but there'll be a bell rung, and there's an opportunity for people to be quiet with themselves and with each other for a couple of hours, or whatever length one wishes to enter into this quietness and darkness. We forget about it because we're so used to receiving our doses of stimulation and begin to crave them, are addicted to them. And yet something is not right. Something feels not right. Something is lacking. What is it? To come upon that, doesn't one have to sit down or walk quietly? To get in touch with, to start this, to let this stuff start unraveling itself. Whatever it will do, whatever it takes, let's give it some opportunity to be felt, to unravel, to move, to change. And usually, that's what I've found, and many other people have found, a quiet time is the best opportunity for it, not the only one. And this quiet time, this receptivity, as one person called it, receptive to what is going on, sensitive, increasingly sensitive, that is not unconnected to the way we respond when we leave the quietness. Because we notice much more in our actions. Do we? Here in a retreat, which is still, even the eating is quiet, but is there more awareness of eating, of biting, chewing, swallowing, salivating? More fragrance and more tasting of the individual tastes of foods, the textures, the temperature, the goodness of eating, of filling, the goodness of eliminating. There's more opportunity for that action to come into awareness, into light, into touch, sensitive touch. I'm not so sure there is any sharp, delineated division between quiet receptiveness and action, depending, of course, on the action. Where does it come from? Maybe we should leave that for another day. Where do our actions come from? Do they come out of quietness? Interest in what is going on? Not all the time. We forget so quickly. We get involved. We get blown away by emotions, by somebody flattering us or hurting us. But again, we're interested in that too, in following that through. So depending on where the action comes from, whether it comes from reaction to feelings of insufficiency, or one person yesterday said, I seem to have lost all ambition to become somebody, to advance, to get a lot of money. What's wrong with me? If we come out of something's wrong with me and I got to write that because of my parents, they want to see a successful son, or society wants to celebrate a successful citizen. If it comes out of that reactiveness, then there will be no quiet in it. There will just be the grind of the program, pushing ourselves and pushing others aside. That goes together. No sensitivity to what's around us. Because I've got to get there. I have to do something to satisfy inner programs. My parents may already be dead, but I still need to placate them. Or, as one person here dropped a note, can the action come out of a quiet place, of not totally self-centeredness? Interest in what I'm doing, interest in how the hands move, or the pencil moves, or the computer moves, the thoughts arrive. Interested, and also interested to other people around me. Receptive to what is happening in action. It's not impossible, is it? Even though it doesn't happen very much for us. Because at this point, the programs prevail over this receptive sensitivity and finding that spot of non-self-centered involvement, which is there to be found. And if action comes out of that, or there is touch with that, then the action will not be separate from quiet sitting and inward looking. It'll have a different quality in some respects. We can name it. But sitting too, if one really sits with openness, openly, the breathing, the sunshine, the sounds, and the feelings of the body, the words, it's not just passive, it's also action, isn't it? Where is there something in life that is not active? A thick oil slick on the coast of Alaska, is that passive? Or does it too slowly decay? I don't know what happens to oil slicks, but something happens to everything. There's nothing static in this whole universe. Maybe the most static thing is the thoughts and images that we cling to day in and day out. But they too can change or drop, be seen through, with a transparency that is possible for human beings. A transparency which detects motives in action, whether one is sitting or moving, self-centered motives. It doesn't matter. What matters is the detecting, the seeing, not what is seen. Because what is seen changes under the light of seeing. In the light of seeing, it's not separate. Shall we leave it here for today? A lot was said. These are not instructions. Don't take them this way. Find your own way. Person said, well, how am I going to see these thoughts? Find out. I can't tell you. If I told you, you would be beholden to me and the method. Take the 200 cows. That's easy teaching, isn't it? Only you have to have lots of 200 cows. But in those times, there were very few, probably. I don't know. But that spark of finding out for oneself, isn't that marvelous? That no one can do it for you, for me. And not to give up because something gets boring or painful or depressive. But what is it? That switch, what is it? Oh, No, I don't want to promulgate any words. a switch from suffering and enduring into wondering what everything is, including this, what I call myself. We will end here for today.